Sweet, so we are going to be on the play here. And no hexproof creature. I will say that. But the hand has pretty much everything else. So I'm going to keep. And hope that the Spirit Dancer, that this is a matchup where Core Spirit Dancer, the Core Spirit Dancer is going to be at its best in the matchups where the opponent does not have a lot of removal. Alternatively, we can use fetch lands to get a Dryad Arbor, or simply draw a hexproof creature, So, not going to get the Dryad Arbor yet. Let's see what land our opponent plays if they... Well, yeah. Let's see what our opponent does here. Okay, Copperline Gorge. What does that mean? Into Faithless Looting. Okay. So this could be a Dredge style deck. It could be, yes, Dredge. We are playing against Dredge. Which, with this hand, if our opponent... So our opponent doesn't have a Conflagrate in the graveyard. Conflagrate. So if they can't kill the Core Spirit Dancer, I think we're going to win. Because we can load it up, and the Coronet plus, say, Ethereal Armor on a Spirit Dancer simply becomes too big for our opponent to deal with, but they found Conflagrate here. So I expect them to use it, and that's pretty unfortunate. Which, if they do decide to use it, then we have to go to our backup plan. And so, yep, there it is. So this makes it more interesting. Now that our Spirit Dancer is gone. So the plan B is Dryad Arbor. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use the Windswept Heath and search a Dryad Arbor out of our deck. And play a couple of enchantments on it. And next turn we can play the Coronet on it. So the Dryad Arbor, now that it has an Umbra, it means that Conflagrate can't actually just kill it, like what happened to our Core Spirit Dancer there. And okay, so we don't have a way to give trample yet. That is something that we're missing. But if we're able to gain a ton of life and also have a big blocker, that's going to make things quite difficult on our opponent, because the Dredge deck doesn't necessarily have ways to push through a big lifelinking creature. So I like our spot here, even though the Core Spirit Dancer did die. Okay, the Insolent Neonate, that can block and then do some like block and sack shenanigans. So we'd like something like Rancor, something like Spirit Mantle. It looks like our opponent's just going to cash in the Neonate right away. We see Haunted Dead in the graveyards. There's going to be some prized amalgam action here. So our opponent's going to have 3 amalgams. That's a lot of prized amalgams. We, on the other hand, have Daybreak Coronet, and it looks like our opponent just realizes exactly what happens here. We just have a huge lifelink creature, and our opponent can't deal with it, so they're going to scoop up there. So in terms of the sideboard, we want Rest in Peace. That is clearly the best possible card we could have. in this matchup. We don't really want Leyline of Sanctity. Our opponent's not going to be targeting us with too much. Don't need the Gaddock Teagues, even though it's good against Conflagrate. I don't know that we care that much. Second Path to Exile, that's another possibility, but we also don't necessarily care about our opponent's creatures. So I like just boarding in the 2 Rest in Pieces, not doing anything too fancy. This is a pretty good matchup, as you could tell from the last game there. So this hand, and we also have to expect, by the way, our opponent to board in a decent amount of enchantments removal. This hand would, once again, be reliant on a Dryad Arbor. So we could, it's actually a pretty close hand. But I'm going to mulligan it. 4 lands is just kind of a lot. And we can hope for something better. This is a weird one. We're on the draw, obviously with 0 lands. But we do have the Slippery Bogle, and we do have multiple 1-mana enchantments. If we draw even 1 land, we can have room to operate. I'm going to try it. Okay, bottom the Keen Sense. So, you know, there's a very high possibility we don't get to play any Magic here. There's certainly on the play I wouldn't keep this hand. On the draw, I feel like the upside is there. Of course, we are bricking off here, so you know what? Sometimes these keeps look terrible, right? And this is one of those times. Our opponent has what they needed on turn 2. Let's Stinkweed Imp Dredge. Alright, so we did draw land here. So yeah, I mean, it's possible we would have been better off with our 7-card hand or a 5-card hand. But it's easy to say that. It's easy to say that, you know, having not immediately drawn the land and just now drawn it. And even now, it's not clear that we're gonna lose for sure, actually. We would love a second land. So let's see what our opponent's got. So multiple prized amalgams. We see a duress there, so I like to keep in mind specific cards. But it looks like with 3 prized amalgams, okay, there's a Fragmentize in there too. Yeah, we would have had trouble beating this regardless. Sure, I'm just gonna pack this one up. And let's play game 3, shall we? So still advocating for no changes for this sideboard setup. One thing that Rest in Peace on the play is just amazing if we're able to do that. But also just, you know, a hexproof creature with lands, with enchantments, just, you know, what the deck, just a regular decent draw from our deck is going to be better than our opponent's good draws most of the time on the play. So I still like our chances moving on to game 3. Yeah, this is fine. Slippery Bogle. is how we want to start off. I think I'm going to get a basic forest here. Just we don't have a life gain effect yet, so that's just kind of to hedge against our opponent having a draw that could potentially race this hand, which is pretty unlikely that our opponent's going to be able to race. But if they have, you know, a good start with dredging and maybe a piece of, say, enchantment removal, that could be disruptive. So our opponent has not actually put a dredger in the graveyard yet. So, yep, we're just going to do our thing here. Rancor and Ethereal Armor for the maximum amount of damage we can deal this turn, which is 5. Turn 1, 5 damage is, or turn 2 rather, 5 damage is the maximum that this deck can deal on turn 2. So that's pretty good. Duress, okay, so that's going to take our Spider Umbra, but we've got our 2 best enchantments in play already. We've also got the Horizon Canopy, which we can use to draw a card. Oh, that might just be game. Daybreak Coronet off the top, baby. And this is turn 3. We have a 9/7 lifelink trample vigilance first strike. And our opponent also cast a duress this game. So we're empty-handed. You know, do your worst, opponent. Try your best to deal with this. So, I mean, I would guess our opponent is trying to find, you know, enchantment removal. But, yep, that is the game.